the Roman Empire. For centuries, the name alone conjured images of legions marching relentlessly across continents, of emperors holding sway over millions. But Rome's might wasn't built solely on military victories and political maneuvering. It was also built on a foundation of fear. Today, we delve into the dark heart of Roman justice, exploring 10 of the most bizarre and brutal punishments inflicted in the name of order. Imagine being deemed guilty of the most heinous crime imaginable in Roman society, parricide, the murder of one's own parents. Such a transgression demanded a punishment equally unsettling: enter the poena culli. The condemned would be sewn into a leather sack, but they weren't alone. Joining them would be a rooster, a viper, a dog, and a monkey. Then the sack and its living cargo were thrown into the Tiber River. The message was clear: defy the fundamental laws of Roman society, and your end would be as bizarre and agonizing as your crime. The image of the crucifixion is often associated with a single momentous event in history. But in the Roman world, this agonizing form of execution was a commonplace spectacle. For slaves, rebels, and the lowest classes of criminals, the cross represented the ultimate price for their transgressions. Stripped naked and publicly humiliated, they would be nailed or bound to a rough-hewn cross, left exposed to the elements. Death, when it finally came, was a slow and agonizing release. Crucifixion wasn't a quick death. It was a drawn-out ordeal designed to break the spirit. This was Rome's justice system in action, raw, unflinching, and utterly ruthless. Step into the Colosseum, the colossal heart of Roman entertainment, and imagine the roar of the crowd, not cheering for gladiators, but for the spectacle of damnatio ad bestias. Condemned criminals, stripped and defenseless, were thrown into the arena to face nature's most fearsome predators. Lions, tigers, bears, starved and agitated, were unleashed upon the condemned. The crowd reveled in the carnage. For those sentenced to damnatio ad bestias, there was no hope of victory, only the certainty of a swift and brutal end. This was a spectacle designed to shock and awe, reminding every citizen of the consequences of incurring the wrath of Rome. In the unforgiving crucible of the Roman army, discipline was paramount. To maintain the cohesion and might of their legions, the Romans employed a punishment as chilling as it was effective: fustuarium. A soldier stands accused of desertion, of cowardice, of betraying the very oath that bound him to his comrades. His fate: to be beaten to death by the very men he fought alongside. Stripped of his rank and his weapons, the condemned would be surrounded by his former comrades. Each man, armed with a club or a stone, would take their turn delivering blows. This punishment wasn't just about eliminating the weak link, it was about sending a message that echoed through the ranks. Fire in the Roman mind held a dual significance. It was a source of life, warmth, and civilization, yet it also possessed a terrifying, destructive power, reserved for crimes of the highest order: treason, sacrilege, arson. Burning alive was a public spectacle designed to inflict both physical and psychological torment. The condemned, often bound to a stake, would be doused in flammable materials, their fate sealed with the strike of a torch. Imagine the inferno that would erupt, the flames licking at flesh, the searing heat stealing the air from your lungs. This wasn't a swift demise, it was a slow, agonizing descent into oblivion. The crowd gathered to witness this gruesome spectacle were meant to internalize the message: defy the state, betray its trust, and your end would be a fiery torment for all to see. Burning alive wasn't just about taking a life, it was about forging a bond of fear between the Roman state and its subjects. High atop the Capitoline Hill, overlooking the bustling heart of Rome, lay a silent sentinel of Roman justice, the Tarpeian Rock. This sheer cliff, named for a Vestal virgin who betrayed Rome, became synonymous with a punishment as simple as it was final death by defenestration. For traitors, the Tarpeian Rock offered no mercy, no chance for redemption. Bound and blindfolded, they would be dragged up the slope of the hill. Imagine the moment the blindfold was removed, the city spread out before you in all its glory, the realization dawning that this breathtaking vista would be your last. Then, with a shove, you'd be sent hurtling over the precipice. The fall itself was often fatal, a bone-shattering impact against the unforgiving rocks. The Tarpeian Rock wasn't just a place of execution, it was a symbol of the precarious nature of trust in Roman society. The arena, a stage for both spectacle and slaughter, offered a glimmer of hope for some condemned criminals. Gladiatorial combat. This wasn't justice as much as it was a gruesome gamble, a chance to fight for your life amidst the sand and the screams of the Colosseum. For those condemned to the arena, there were two paths. Some were granted the dubious privilege of training, learning the art of combat in the hopes of surviving the crucible of the arena. Others, less fortunate, were thrown into the arena with little to no training. Imagine the roar of the crowd, the glint of sunlight on the blades of your opponents, the knowledge that your life hung precariously in the balance. Victory, if it came, meant living to fight another day, to face the spectre of death yet again in the hopes of earning your freedom. But for many, the arena became their tomb, their bodies dragged away to the cheers of a bloodthirsty crowd. While not uniquely Roman, the punishment of scaphism found its way into their repertoire of horrors. This ancient Persian method of execution was as ingenious as it was utterly horrific. Imagine being stripped naked, your body bound and helpless, trapped within the confines of two small boats or hollowed-out logs. You are then force-fed a sickening concoction of milk and honey. The boats, with you trapped within their claustrophobic embrace, are then set adrift on a stagnant pond or swamp. The mixture you are forced to consume ferments within your bowels, triggering agonizing diarrhea, your body a breeding ground for insects drawn to the stench. The insects come first, drawn to the scent of your excrement and your sweat. Death, when it finally comes, is a merciful release from the relentless torment. The Roman army, a machine of conquest that carved its way across continents, was built on a foundation of iron discipline. To maintain order and obedience, they employed a punishment as chilling in its randomness as it was in its brutality: decimation. Imagine the scene: a legion, weary from battle, stands assembled. The air is thick with tension, the silence broken only by the rustling of leather and the clinking of armor. Their commander addresses them, announcing their punishment for cowardice or disobedience in the face of the enemy. Decimation. 1 in every 10 men, chosen by the cold hand of fate, would be beaten to death by their own comrades. Decimation wasn't just about punishing the guilty. It was about instilling a deep-seated terror in the hearts of every soldier. In the Roman legal system, confession was paramount. For those who refused to confess, a particularly gruesome punishment awaited: crushing by weights. Imagine the scene. You are dragged into a dimly lit chamber, the air thick with the scent of stale sweat and fear. You are forced onto your back, your limbs restrained, your chest bare. Then the weights are brought in. Large stones, or perhaps sacks filled with sand, are placed upon your chest, the weight pressing down with agonizing pressure. You are given a choice: confess, and the weights will be removed, your suffering eased. Remain silent and the weights will remain, the pressure increasing until your body gives way. The Roman Empire, for all its grandeur and might, was built on a foundation of blood and fear. These punishments were more than just methods of execution, they were tools of social control. The Roman state understood the power of spectacle, the visceral impact of public punishment. They wielded fear as a weapon, ensuring the loyalty of their citizens and the subjugation of their enemies. While we may recoil in horror at these practices today, they serve as a stark reminder of the darker aspects of human nature.